All right, so we're going to start I'm going to play my welcome video that I created for this Appy Hour, and then we're going to just talk about it real quick, and that will launch us into our discussion.
Hi everyone, so in today's Appy Hour workshop, we are going to take a couple minutes just to talk a little bit about classroom engagement. What are you doing in your classes? What's working, what's not working? I had a chance to go into a couple different classrooms in the last few weeks. I'm seeing a lot of different things as far as how your rooms are set up, where you have students sitting. I know we're spending a lot of time, making sure that the students at home are engaged, and with the number of kids in the classes there's so few numbers. I also could see, you trying to find a good balance between making sure, the kids at home are engaged and the kids in the classroom are engaged. I've seen a lot of different, setups with teachers sitting, teachers standing, teachers moving around the room. So there are a lot of different things, and it truly does depend on how many kids you have in the class. But I would love to hear from you guys, what's working. How can we help support each other and figure out what we can do to make sure we're really engaging students?
All right. So I made that little video in Canva just for your information. I'm a huge proponent of Canva. I did an Appy Hour last year on it. It's basically, I guess it's like Screencastify, but I mean, I think the video puts you in a little circle instead of a square. But it's neat because you can link it up with, with slides that you can create specifically in Canva. And I just like all the features and the neat things that you can put in there. So I did that. I think it took me, 5 minutes to do. I might have been in my pajamas when I recorded it. And, but basically it's, just one other way that you can use interactive or, really pretty slides as far as I'm concerned, and have your face, talking at the students. So this is our Appy Hour where we're basically like, what are you doing? It's what's working for you, what's not working for you. And the format of this really is discussion for, this next 15 minutes. If you have something that's working fantastically, this is our opportunity to share. So the majority of this, I'm going to pretty much mute myself, just facilitate a little bit and have everyone talk a little bit about, something that might be working for them. Any volunteers first?
Something that's definitely working for school counseling is a combination of Zoom webinars. So with large scale parents and student groups easily able to get out information, record it, put it on the website. But more likely it's just Google Meets, to be honest with you, is the student reaches out, they need any assistance. We're basically just setting up a Google Meet as fast as possible. Probably hitting about a 75% success rate with getting the student to connect within 15, 20 minutes or at a free time very near in the future. But are teachers finding the same success with setting up individual help sessions? No.
I set them up when no one comes. So.
Is that office hours or is that individual?
Office hours. I have them 3 times a week, and I've had several sessions so far, and I've had one little friend pop in to talk about stuff. It was good for that one kid. I'm just really struggling with finding the balance between not keeping them on the Meet the whole time and holding them accountable. And like yesterday, I let them go after about 15 minutes with the expectation that they would use the time to work on the assignment. I check GoGuardian. Half of them have turned their Chromebook off. One kid, popped in to ask a couple questions, but I had no kids in the room. All of my class was distance learning. So I just feel like I don't have a good way to know how they're doing because they just leave. And then I don't see what they know until they turn the assignment in. And then if it's not good, they get a bad grade. And then it's like, well, what do we do now? Because they had a week to work on it. And I feel like, I don't know. I'm very challenged by this.
Do you feel that, oh, sorry, one sec. Do you feel that if a student turned in work and maybe they missed the mark on it, that and maybe a parent did call and say, hey, what happened, that you would have, enough background information to be able to say, this is what I had set up in the class. This is what the student took advantage of and didn't take advantage of. And that's how we arrived at this. Do you feel like you'd have enough dialogue to be able to kind of come back with that?
Yeah. And I've been very clear with the kids too. If this is something you have a week to work on and you turn it in and you've missed the mark, but you haven't come to the office hours, you haven't stayed on the Meet to ask questions, this is a college course. I'm sorry. You had all these opportunities to get feedback and revise before the due date, and now that you turned it in and it's not very good, like, it is what it is. Because with 100 AP students, for me personally, like, it can't just be a revolving door of like resubmissions and regrades and stuff. But I'm happy to give feedback before the due date. But I'm just like, in a high level course like that, trying to release them early, but hold them accountable and know how they're doing and be there to support them it's really hard to find that balance without having them on the meet.
Anyone have any advice? Things that are working well?
Not necessarily. Sorry. Not necessarily. Go ahead. Go ahead. You can go ahead. Okay. I was gonna say that not necessarily advice, but I have similar issues with Spanish in the sense that like I can't just let them go. So like I'll have a prompt and then I have everyone share out, like whether they're at home or in person. That's kind of how I'm checking in to see if they're like engaged and if they understand what we're talking about. So like we're talking about food. So I'll ask them, do you buy this? And then I'll have 2 students share out, yo sí compro, yo no compro. So that's kind of how I'm checking in with them. But I am finding it difficult too to find the balance of like, should I just let them go because it is in another language? So I'm like, if I let them go to do the work on their own, like, how do I know that they're understanding it, not just going to Google Translate? So what I do is like I say, you have 10 minutes to watch the video that I have for you on Edpuzzle or wherever, and then come back. We discuss the video together, and then we move on to the next activity. But depending on what the activity could be, then I'll say like, you guys may log off for the next 15 minutes, stay on if you have questions. And I have had, they're all freshmen, so most of them are willing to stay on and like ask questions, but it's still kind of like I'm finding difficulty to see like if it's okay to let them go or if it's like fine for me to keep them the whole time. Because again, if I don't need them there the whole time, I don't want them to feel like they have to. But then how do I know that they're keeping up with me, that they're staying with me, and that they're doing the same activities and everything like that?
Robert, you had something to say?
Yeah, one thing that I've tried that I've found to work with engagement is kind of redesigning how I introduce class. So I'm a math teacher, and typically we start with a warm up where kids have pencil on paper and they're writing. So that redesign for me has looked like posting some sort of question that they can answer with no materials in front of them. So they're looking at a problem, they're constructing an argument in their head, and they're sharing verbally. And I think that takes away some of the frustration they're dealing with technology and having everything ready to go at the start of class. So then by the time I do get to my main lesson, they've already shared something with the class with very low stakes. So I like to present the question in a way that they can provide many answers. And I always try to celebrate every student sharing out. So when we get to the lesson, they're a lot more comfortable answering those actual mathematical concepts that I asked them.
Ellen, you had a response to what Keith was saying. You want to talk a little bit about that? Sorry.
I'm pretty much holding them on the Google Meet. That's it, period. And a lot of it is basically me intro. Maybe we view something together, or I might present a Pear Deck or whatever it is. I'm trying to put a lot of activities into Google Forms, only because it's easy to push out and it's easy to collect the data back. The other thing though is I do have an issue with keeping them engaged. Like when you let them go and do a 10-minute activity or respond to the form or whatever it may be, you come back and the camera's on the ceiling, the avatar's still up. You ask to remove it, they do for a second and then back on for whatever reason. That's the continuous battle that I'm fighting. But perhaps keeping the meet open and just making them go to the avatar, like Keith said, it is very effective in terms of the majority of your kids will be there engaging, but there are going to be a few that, put their cameras up or don't come back with the avatar.
Yeah, and Tara or Tim, maybe you guys can speak to this. My understanding, and this might be wrong, but I thought the initial communication was let them go so that we're reducing the amount of screen time that they're spending. So is that like still a concern, or could we do something like Keith and Ellen are saying, where you keep them on the meet but let them work?
I mean, I would say yes. Initially, we did want to just not have a kid locked into their computer for 4 hours. You know, I'd be interested to know if anybody almost just set the classroom norms up at the beginning of the year, saying that, you know, this is how I envision us doing this. So we're going to, you know, have live instruction for the first, you know, 15 or so minutes. After that, I will give the opportunity to put your avatar up. So if you need to leave to grab a snack or go to the bathroom, feel free. But I am going to be looking for people to re-engage at different points during the lesson. So I'm just kind of wondering, I see Josh is kind of nodding his head. Maybe Josh, you could speak a little bit about how you have it set up in your class. But I would imagine we're trying not to have kids locked in for 4 straight hours, but really almost set it up in the class expectations or the norms about how you're going to navigate the fact that they are at home, their dog's going to jump up, or, you know, who God only knows, but, you know, how to navigate that. Sava, you had your hand raised. Go ahead, Sava.
Yeah, so one thing I've been doing is I'll start my class off, have the Google Meet going, and once I'm done instructing, asking questions, so I guess a couple of things. One thing I do is I ask questions for people at home and in the class to see if, you know, try to get them engaged, and say, rather than me explaining to you what this code is going to do, what do you think is going to happen? Or what do you think is going to occur with this specific piece of code? That's one thing. The next thing I do is I keep the Google Meet open. So I tell students, if you need extra help or you just want to stay online for me to answer questions, stay on. If not, you're free to go. And I notice about maybe 4 or 5 kids will stay on, and then throughout the rest of the class, as they're working, they'll type or ask questions. So I kind of use the last maybe 20 minutes, 25 minutes of the class where I'm bouncing around between the kids in the class and then in the Google Meet answering questions. So that seems to be working for me. And then what I'll do is set up every Wednesday. I've been putting up a notice. If you have a question or need extra help, post here. And then what I do is set up a Google Meet time for Wednesday afternoons. So that seems to be working. That was a lot. Anyways,
Good,
yeah.
Josh. Thanks, Sava.
Yeah.
Yeah, I know I heard someone say Pear Deck. I've been using that with check-ins throughout the class period. I usually try to only teach for 20, 25 minutes and then have something for them to do. And I leave the Meet open and I tell them I'm going to be back. And yeah, I've seen a little bit of a diminishment in the number of kids that fully stay on. I think it really depends on the assignment. And I do wonder, I don't know whether Jamie, whether you're working on code or what exactly it is. Maybe a Google form where they literally drop pieces of code that they're writing and you can quickly check it during class. I also wonder, I've been trying to figure out how to do smaller groups or meetings or breakouts with it. I know that the breakout might be available. It showed up in my Google Meet just recently. There's a little thing. But a separate smaller room where you can just literally check in with kids, set up a schedule. I think I would appreciate that right now with my freshmen too.
Yeah, my initial thought too is I could use GoGuardian to like watch what they're doing, and GoGuardian has a chat feature, so I can like, you know, give them pointers if they look stuck or something, or say, hey, come back to the Meet. And that works really well when they stay on the Chromebook. But the issue I'm having is when they close it and then they're just gone. So maybe I think maybe I'll try telling them and setting that expectation, like, stay on, and then like Tim said, maybe come back for the last 10-15 minutes to discuss.
I would be interested to see, you know, after Thursday when our grade books are all, you know, up to date and where, you know, parents are truly able to check in and see where kids are at. I do wonder if there might be a change a little bit, you know, for teachers who are frustrated about the engagement level in their classes, that, you know, the parents are going to be going in and checking and saying like, all right, you need to stay in there. You know, I know you said you're fine, but at this point it's time to, you know, to really buckle down. I know we definitely saw that once Q4 started, after a couple weeks into Q4 last year, where, you know, the parents were like, oh, you can just kind of hang out at home and you don't necessarily have to be logged in as much. And there was a shift basically where the parents were like, nope, that's it. Like, you need to buckle down and take care of business. So I'm wondering, you know, after for the second half of the quarter, if that might make a difference. Anybody else want to add? We have about 5 minutes left. Heidi, go ahead.
So I'm teaching orchestra and piano. My situation may just be unique to my particular situation. But so I'm having 2 different issues. The first is trying to rehearse an ensemble in real time when the majority of them on any given day are at home. And We tried. It was glitchy. It was laggy. It was a hot mess. So then that was my period 7 group. So with my period 8 group, I'm like, okay, so yesterday was a mess. Here's what I'm going to have you do. We went over the new music together. I, had them pop in and out, clapping some rhythms. I'm like, now you need to practice on your own. My chat box was flooded with, my mom's in a meet, my older sister's a TA and she's running her class right now. I can't play my instrument. I can't play my instrument. I can't play my instrument. So I may or may not have done my open house video yet. So I threw in my orchestra open house video. So this is what time class is. Please make sure that, your child is available to play their instrument, blah, blah, blah. If they're not, they can, do it another time. But again, like you were saying before, Jamie, the follow-up. So now I'm starting to create an assignment an engagement assignment every single day, which is like, okay, so if you were at home today, tell me what went well with your practicing. Okay, but I don't know that they actually practiced. I know that they just answered the question. I don't even know if I asked a question or just aired my frustrations, but that's where I am.
And that's okay. So thank you, Heidi. We appreciate it. Anybody else? We have a couple minutes left. What's working? Any questions? Anybody? All right.
I've got one.
Ellen, go ahead.
For Heidi, maybe, I don't know if this would help you, but perhaps to document their practice, and given the time constraints, if they do, obviously they can't be playing a trumpet or whatever if they have folks working in the next room, but maybe perhaps using Flipgrid, which allows them to record and then upload, and kids can actually comment, view, you can view, it can be shared, but that might be helpful. And if you want, I can show you how that works because I've been using it a little bit, but that might be an app to consider, Flipgrid.
Go ahead, Josh.
One thing I've also been trying to figure out is on the summative end of it, and this might help address some of this. Instead of trying to grade individual assignments as much, a summative piece where they try and show me evidence along the way, where they have to go back and, hey, I did this assignment, this is what we did, and have reflection questions in it. And that might, given time, if you do those every couple weeks, make them go, oh, we did something during class that was important. I wasn't on. I don't have the evidence to submit during this summative piece, and now I need to figure out how I'm making it up and how I'm catching it. And that might help catch kids going, oh, we are doing stuff in class that's relevant and important, and it is counting on some kind of cumulative piece at the end.
Just one real quick thought. So for my cooking classes, some of the students, they may not be able to cook right there and then. So I say by the end of tonight or by tomorrow morning, could you send me in a picture, complete the lab sheet, and then send me a picture of your chopped up vegetables or whatever it is that we're working on. So maybe for music, maybe having a little bit of flexibility of when they do the practice, and then maybe figure out some way where they can show you, hey, I got this done, or maybe you do have them record a few moments of them playing and submit it as an engagement grade or something. So it seems like having that flexibility was working, works out for families. Yeah.
Thank you. I appreciate the feedback.
Excellent. And thanks everybody for, offering your tips and strategies or things that are working, and also for being willing to share what's not working. Because I think we're not going to improve in general as individuals or as a full staff if we're not honest about, okay, I tried this and I'm not getting anywhere. So I really do appreciate everyone popping in here. I know we're going to head off to department meetings in a minute, but thank you very much for participating. And, feel free to reach out to each other for help. I know Ellen had some great ideas. A couple of you might be, touching base with her later. But again, thanks everybody. We really appreciate it. And I hope you have a fantastic day.
Thanks, Tara.
Thanks, Tara.
Bye.